The CDC says 1 in 5 high school students reported being bullied on school property in the last year, and reports are highest for middle school students. Dr. Holly McKenna with Dara Wellness joins us on National Stop Bullying Day to explain why some kids bully and signs that your child may be a target. Holly, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So I think first, you said only 20% of kids will actually tell their parents what's going on. That is so scary. Right? How do you know if your kid is being bullied?
You know, so they did a survey, the CDC, and about 15% of kids who are in middle school get bullied within the previous year on their school grounds. Actually in high school, sorry, I said middle school because my kid's in middle school and that's where my concern is.
Sure.
But also about 22% of children from ages 12 to 18 report being bullied at some point. And so for us to recognize it, you might see a change in behaviors. Maybe they're not wearing their favorite jacket, or items are missing, or they're coming home hungry because they're not eating at lunch. Really, it's about opening the lines of communication between us and our children so that they feel comfortable coming to us, because it is a hard conversation. There's a lot of shame there, a lot of embarrassment, a lot of worry about what's mom and dad going to think that this is happening to me.
Are they going to believe me? Are they going to say, oh, maybe you're taking it the wrong way, things like that. But knowing if you have a child in middle school or high school, what a real reality this can be for them, maybe make sure that you're believing your kid when they tell you these things are going on and trying to help them through it. Now, what is bullying? Like, what is the definition there? When do you say, okay, this is somewhere where I need to step in and maybe talk to a teacher?
Yes, and that's important for people to know. So bullying, there's usually some type of difference in power. It might be a perceived difference. I mean, if you're having a bullying experience at work, that's a little easier. It's a boss and someone who's under them.
Sure.
But in kind of kids' world, it might be a difference in popularity, a difference in physical abilities. It could be just that someone feels a little different, and so because of that they feel this difference in power. And then there's usually a repetitive type of behavior. It can be physical, it can be verbal, where they're calling names. It can also be social. That's where it gets tricky, and I think that's where it's harder for parents and teachers sometimes to differentiate. It can be telling other friends not to be friends with that person,
isolation,
or purposefully excluding them, or purposefully embarrassing them. Now, it's one thing to, if something embarrassing happens, but when it's something that's done with ill intent, that's more in the bullying realm.
Yeah, and I think you and I both, we kind of transported back to middle school there for a second. Both having gone through this, kids out there are not alone.
Absolutely
this is something that a lot of the adults you look at experienced when they were in middle school too, or high school. But kids these days have the extra added factor of social media.
Yeah.
And I just can't even imagine, as much as bullying really stunk when I was going through it, to have the extra added social media on top of that, what is that doing to kids' psyche right now?
Well, and I think that's part of what's adding this power differential, is if you're online and you don't have any accountability, it's a lot easier. And we see grown-ups do it all the time, right?
Yes,
when people kind of being that troll person, as we call them.
Sure.
Just writing something mean because you don't see the immediate feedback of that person's face and what, the devastation that can happen. A lot of it is going to be education and making sure our kids understand that these things that happen are not okay. There's the person who is engaging in the bullying, there's the person who's receiving it, but there's also the bystanders. And they can also be negatively affected. We also see depression and anxiety in that population just as much as in the other two. They can also start avoiding school because they're seeing this happen to someone who maybe they care about or are worried about, but they don't know what to do. And they're the ones that we need to really educate so they can understand how they can intervene and stand up for their friend, or just stand up for a person that they see is getting treated poorly. So those are conversations that are super important for us to have.
And you should try to have those conversations before you're in the situation, I assume.
If possible, but we're not perfect. As I said, I have a child in middle school. It's like a day by day thing as to like what's going on now.
Yeah.
And so we have to just kind of go with it, but be careful that we're having those conversations, checking in with our kids, asking them how they're doing, and then receiving what they're telling us. Because if they do tell us that something is awry, we need to take a breath. I love my belly breaths, and receive that and let them then take the lead, because they've already lost some power in this bullying situation. So letting them know you have their back, letting them know you hear them, letting them know that you're going to follow their lead. If it's something that's super, that's kind of at another level that you have to engage in the school or, therapists, what have you, definitely doing that, getting their tribe of adults to help them.
Finding a way
hearing them.
To hear them,
Yes.
and then from there, take a deep breath and help them. Dr. Holly McKenna, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank
Very
you.
important topic.